Hi, back again, annoying people with logical fallacies. I said fair use, all that. Not that I need to, because it's what they call it, free to share it and stuff. I said it's from the University of Texas, El Paso. We're on number 80. Like I said, there's going to be a link in the description to this anyway, so everyone can go and have a look. Name calling. A variety of the ad hominem argument, the dangerous fallacy that simply because of who one is or is alleged to be, any and all arguments, disagreements, or objections against one's standpoint or actions are automatically racist, sexist, anti-Semitic, bigoted, discriminatory, or hateful. Example: my stand on abortion is the only correct one. To disagree with me, argue with me, or question my judgment in any way would only show what a pig you really are. Like I said, these are not my opinions. This is just written down here. Also applies to refuting an argument by simply calling it a fallacy or declaring it invalid without proving why it is invalid. Well, I always refute arguments by simply calling it a fallacy. Yeah. But I try and declare it's invalid by I prove why it's invalid. I give them an explanation and everything else of why it's invalid, why it's a fallacy, and give them a definition of that fallacy. So, where are we? Or summarily dismissing arguments or opponents by labelling them racist, communist, fascist, moron, any name followed by the suffix tard. See, we get this a lot from these globers. We get called morons, retards, flatards, stuff like that, you know what I mean? Short for the highly offensive retard. Or some other negative name without further explanation. Example: he's an arsehole, end of story. Or I'm a loser. A subset of this is the newspeak fallacy, creating identification with a certain kind of audience by inventing or using racist or offensive, sometimes military-sounding nicknames for opponents or enemies. Example: the damned dinos are even worse than the repugs and the neocons. God knows what any of that means. What the bloody hell are dinos, repugs and neocons? Not got a clue. Or in the big one, it took us only 5 years to beat both the Jerry's. So more than a decade and a half after 9/11, why is it so hard for us to beat right? Yeah, it's all racist shit there. I mean, I'm not gonna say any of that. Note that originally the word Nazi belonged in this category, but this term has long come into use as a proper English noun. See also reductionism, ad hominem argument, and alphabet soup. Right, yeah. Well, we get this a lot from these globers, don't we? Where they're calling us flatards and morons and retards and all this sort of stuff. You know what I mean? Name calling. So it's a variety of ad hominem attack. And the dangerous fallacy. Like I said, that's simply because of who one is or is alleged to be. Any arguments, disagreements, objections against one's standpoint or actions are automatically, you know what I mean, discounted and everything. The narrative fallacy, number 81. Also the fable, the poster child. The ancient fallacy of persuasion by telling a heartwarming or horrifying story or fable, particularly to less educated or uncritical audiences who are less likely to grasp purely logical arguments or general principles. Example: Charles Dickens' A Christmas Carol narratives and fables, particularly those that name names and personalise arguments, tend to be far more persuasive at a popular level than any other forms of argument, and are virtually irrefutable, even when the story in question is well known to be entirely fictional. This fallacy is found even in the field of science, as noted by a recent 2017 scientific study. I'm going to do a video on that. I'm going to have a look at that, because there's a link there. I'm going to click on that. I'll do a video on that when I've done these. The recent 2017 scientific study that this fallacy is found even in the field of science. I'll do a video on that. But yeah, this narrative fallacy, the fable, poster child, trying to persuade people by using the fable, the story of Eratosthenes and stuff like that. You know what I mean? 2,000 years ago, someone put some sticks in the ground, and all these other things that they go on about. So and so did this, so and so did that, all these hundreds of years ago, thousands of years ago, back in antiquity. Appeal to history and stuff like that. You know what I mean? It's a narrative fallacy. A lot of people, like it says, especially less educated or uncritical thinkers, people that are not critically thinking and logically thinking, will fall for those stories. Yeah. Like I said, I'll do one on this. This fallacy is found in the field of science, as noted by a recent 2017 scientific study. We'll have a look at that scientific study later. I'll do a video on that in the next few days. Where are we now? Wasn't going to do 82. NIMBY fallacy, not in my backyard fallacy. No discussion. Non-recognition. Non sequitur is the deluded fallacy of offering evidence, reasons, or conclusions that have no logical connection to the argument at hand. Example: the reason I flunked your course is because the US government is now putting out purple $5 bills. Purple. It's also red herring. Occasionally involves the breathtaking arrogance of claiming to have special knowledge of why God, fate, karma, or the universe is doing certain things. Example: this week's earthquake was obviously meant to punish those people for their great wickedness. It's also magical thinking and the appeal to heaven. 85. I wasn't going to do that one, but where are we now? I want 87. Nothing new under the sun. Olfactory rhetoric. The nose. A vicious zoological level fallacy of pathos, which is appeal to emotion, in which opponents are marginalised, dehumanised, or hated primarily based on their supposed odour, lack of personal cleanliness, imagined disease, or filth. Example: those demonstrators are demanding something or another, but I'll only talk to them if first they go home and take a bath. Or I can smell somebody a block away. Also applies to demeaning other cultures or nationalities based on their different cuisines. Example: I don't care what they say or do, their breath always stinks of garlic. And have you ever smelled their kitchens? Olfactory rhetoric straddles a borderline between a fallacy and a psychopathology. 2017 study by Ruhr University, Bochum, suggests that olfactory rhetoric does not arise from a simple automatic psychological reaction to an actual odour, but in fact strongly depends on one's predetermined reaction or prejudices towards another. And one's olfactory centre is activated even before we perceive an odour. Is that one there? Look. Othering, oops, also I forgot the judicial surprise, the October surprise, a corrupt argument from Logos in which toward the decisive end of a discussion or debate or trial, electoral campaign period or decision-making process, an opponent suddenly, elaborately and usually sarcastically shams having just remembered or uncovered some salient fact, argument or evidence. Example: oops, I forgot to ask you. You were convicted of this same offence twice before, weren't you? Bam. Banned in America. Judicial argument. This fallacy is only too common in public discourse. Also applies to supposedly discovering and sensationally reporting some potentially damning information or evidence, and then after the damage has been done or the decision has been made, quietly declaring, oops, I guess that really wasn't that significant after all. Ignore what I said. Sorry about that. We're just going to, this is the othering. Well, I'll leave a link anyway so we can, over explanation, over generalization. We get them quite a lot. Paralysis of analysis, the passive voice fallacy, paternalism, a serious fallacy of ethos, which is appeal to authority. Arbitrarily tutting, dismissing or ignoring another's arguments or concerns as childish or immature, taking a condescending attitude of superiority toward opposing standpoints or toward opponents themselves. Example: your argument against the war is so infantile, try approaching the issue like an adult for a change. I don't argue with children, or somebody has to be the grown-up in the room, and it might as well be me. Here's why you're wrong. Also refer to the sexist fallacy of dismissing a woman's argument because she is a woman. Example, oh, it must be that time of the month, eh? See also ad hominem arguments and tone policing. What number was that? 94, right? We're at number 98, personalisation, the plain truth fallacy. Plausible deniability, playing on emotion. That's the one that he wanted. Also the sob story, the prophetic fallacy, the bleeding heart fallacy, the drama queen, drama king fallacy. The classic fallacy of pure argument from pathos, from emotion. Argument from emotion, basically, from pathos. Ignoring facts and evoking emotion alone. Example, if you don't agree with witchcraft is a major problem. If you don't agree that witchcraft is a major problem, just shut up, close your eyes for a moment, and picture in your mind all those poor moms crying bitter tears for their innocent tiny children whose cosy little beds and happy tricycles lie all cold and abandoned just because of those wicked old witches. Like, string them all up. It's uncomfortable. The opposite of this is the apathetic fallacy. Also cynicism, burnout, compassion, fatigue, where any and all legitimate arguments from pathos, from emotion, are brushed aside because, as noted, country music artist Joe D. Messina sang 2005, "My give a damn's busted." Obverse to playing on emotion is the ancient fallacy of refinement, real feelings, where certain classes of living beings such as plants and non-domesticated animals, infants, babies and minor children, barbarians, slaves, deep-sea sailors, farm workers, criminals and convicts, refugees, addicts, terrorists, Catholics, Jews, foreigners, the poor, people of colour, hillbillies, hobos, homeless or undocumented people, or the lower classes in general, are deemed incapable of experiencing real pain like we do, or of having any real feelings at all, only brutish appetites, vile lusts, evil drives, filthy cravings, biological instincts, psychological reflexes, and automatic tropisms. Noted rhetorician Kenneth Burke falls into this last behaviourist fallacy in his otherwise brilliant 1966 Language as Symbolic Action, in his discussion of a bird trapped in a lecture room. See also othering. That's probably what these fucking perceived elites probably think of us, you know what I mean? This refinement, real feelings fallacy thing. 99, political correctness. Postmodern fallacy, a counterpart of the name-calling fallacy, supposing that the nature of a thing or situation can be changed by simply changing its name. Example, today we strike a blow for animal rights and against cruelty to animals by changing the name of pets to animal companions. Or never ever play the victim card because it's so manipulative and sounds so negative, helpless and despairing. Instead of being victims, we are proud to be survivors. Of course, when victims disappear, then perpetrators conveniently vanish as well. See also the passive voice fallacy and the scripted message. Also applies to other forms of political language control. Example, being careful never to refer to North Korea or ISIL by their rather pompous proper names. Or to the Syrian government as the Syrian government. It's also the regime or the dictatorship. No, it's always a regime or the dictatorship. Occasionally, the fallacy of political correctness is falsely confused with simple courtesy. Example, I'm sick and tired of the tyranny of political correctness, having to watch my words all the time. I want to be free to speak my mind and to call out to in or in public anytime I damn well feel like it. See also non-recognition. An opposite of this fallacy is a fallacy of venting below. It's right though, they shouldn't have political correctness. No, it's wrong. But you should be just mindful of what words you're using, because people are snowflakes, affected easily, so you just have to be mindful of what words you are using. But because people, like I said, are snowflakes and they get easily offended by words for some strange apparent reason. I don't know why. Words don't offend me, don't bother me, words. It's just a word at the end of the day. People have never heard that saying? Sticks and stones may break my bones, but names will never hurt me. Stop being fucking snowflakes. Right, we're going to go to number 106. So we're going to skip through these. Oh no, I was going to do the post hoc argument. I forgot about that one. The post hoc argument, also post hoc propter hoc, or post hoc ergo propter hoc, too much of a coincidence, the clustering illusion, the classic paranoid fallacy of attributing an imaginary casualty to random coincidences, concluding that just because something happens close to, at the same time as, or just after something else, the first thing is caused by the second. It's like saying that just because the moon's in the sky and it happens to be a high tide, then the moon causes the tide. That's a post hoc argument. Yep. Just because it's a coincidence and they happen to be in the same place at the same time, when there's a high tide, the moon's in the sky, doesn't mean that the moon's causing the tides. That's a post hoc argument. Yeah. It's 106. The red herring, also distraction, an irrelevant argument. This is especially for these globers because they seem to use this a lot. Right, so listen up. I repeat, the red herring fallacy, also the distraction fallacy, an irrelevant argument attempting to mislead and distract an audience by bringing up an unrelated but emotionally loaded issue. Example, in regard to my several bankruptcies and recent indictment for corruption, let's be straight up about what's really important, terrorism. Yeah? So basically, it's like when these globies go, we're trying to measure the shape of the earth and figure out what the shape of the earth is. But they go, oh, look at the sky. Look at the sun. Look at the moon. Look at the stars. That's a red herring because that's got nothing to do with the shape of the earth. Nothing whatsoever, because you don't know what you're looking at anyway. You've never been there. You have to use the appeal to authority fallacy and believe what you're being told. Yeah? It's got nothing to do with the shape of the earth. Looking at the sky. Just look at what happened last week in name and place. Vote for me and I'll fight those terrorists anywhere in the world. Also applies to raising unrelated issues or falsely opposing the issue at hand. Example, you say Black Lives Matter, but I would rather say climate change matters. Well, climate change, I don't know. I mean, it's bullshit. But when the two contentions are in, and it's not just Black Lives Matter, everybody's lives fucking matter. Everybody. Only competing for attention, see sort of ability bias and dog whistle politics. I've seen this quite a few times off these trolls and all, reductio ad Hitlerum, or ad Hitlerium. Where the basically this is a highly problematic contemporary historical revisionist contention that the argument that's just what Hitler said or would have done. It's a fallacy, an instance of the ad hominem argument and or guilt by association. Whether the reductio ad Hitlerium can be considered an actual fallacy or not seems to fundamentally depend on one's personal view of Hitler and the gravity of his crimes. Like I said, I've got no opinion on that anyway, so I don't know. But I've seen these trolls use this, where they saying that basically certain people are like, well, that's what Hitler would have done, or Hitler would have said, and stuff like this. You know what I mean? They're using that, not that it's really a fallacy, but they're using that, and that's a tactic of the paid troll. Is that one of the tactics of a paid troll? 115. I'm going to go to now. The scripted message, also talking points. A contemporary fallacy related to the big lie technique, where a politician or public figure strictly limits her or his statements on a given issue to repeating carefully scripted, often exaggerated or empty phrases, developed to achieve maximum acceptance or maximum desired reaction from a target audience. See also dog whistle politics and political correctness above. The opposite of this fallacy is that of venting. Right, 150, 117. Oh, there's this one here, 116. Sending the wrong message, A dangerous fallacy of logos, which is appeal to logic, logos, that attacks a given statement, argument, or action, no matter how good, true, or necessary, because it will send the wrong message. In effect, those who use this fallacy are openly confessing to fraud and admitting that the truth will destroy the fragile web of illusion they have deliberately created by their lies. Yeah? Example, actually, we haven't a clue about how to deal with this crisis, but if we publicly admit it, we'll be sending the wrong message. So you see also malafides. There we go. We probably all recognise that one, sending the wrong message fallacy. Shifting the burden of proof. Here we go. I'm going to do this in the next video. So it's at the beginning of the video. This one's gone on a bit now. Okay, thank you.